You know, the craziest thing is, I could have, I could have been that kid that lived in comfort zones, and I'm not trying to say like I would survive in a comfort zone, because you know I was never meant to live in a comfort zone. But that works more for children. Children should have a comfort zone, but because I'm in my 20s, I need to look at, you know, going back to the gym, doing things that I always needed to do. And I do, man. I had a past of martial arts. I had a past of boxing, and I find it very ideal, you know, to bring it in. Rewind. Okay. I find it very interesting and ideal now to bring up that specific thing from the gym. Oh my God. I'm really trying. I'm really trying. I'm not. Okay. I find it very ideal now that I need to bring this up. And I need to bring this up right now because, yeah, that's better. Speak a bit more confidently, Dino. Yeah, it's hard. I need to bring this up because when I went there and I was around those guys, a lot of the times, a lot of them weren't like there all the time. There were a handful of times where they were there and they weren't there, if that makes sense. So I had the opportunity to, let's say, watch them in the ring, or, you know, watch them do their combinations. If I was boxing, if I was doing it, then I wouldn't, right? I would. I kind of think like my favorite attribute from the gym was like, if I was ever doing boxing, whether it be Friday, whether it be Sunday, I think that boxing one-on-one in the ring would have always been the way forward, or something that I could have done. And I think that, you know, waiting around, like, I would just be like, oh my God, they're going to call me to go in there. He's going to be like, yo, you go, and you're sparring this guy. You know, that's something that I want. And the ideal part of this whole thing, you know, before it kicked off, before it got chaotic, the thing where you got to understand is, I could have lived in a comfort zone and I could have just done it, right? And I could have just said, I don't think about it. I never do. I just train in the gym, right? Not in a sense of like, I don't want to tell you what I don't, you know, I'm not going to tell you my plan, right? Like, in a sense of like, it opened doors for me. Yeah. Like, it unlocked abilities in my mind. You know, when Becky started to, you know, do everything that she did, and then she made a video you know, touching on certain things, like, you know, like, I appreciate everything that Becky's done and everything that she's done, you know, in a sense of like her character work, right? And her giving off main character energy. She's probably one of my favorites, right? She's number one, you know, and I love that about her, right? But, you know, when I touch on the culture, or I talk about myself, I can touch on the culture and talk about myself because I'm speaking from experience. When I knew those guys, I could have been like, yeah, limitations, yeah, slavery, yeah, bare minimum, yeah. But I don't think that works. I think it works for the elders. But especially with like young people and the cost of living, it doesn't work. And I think wherever you go, whatever you do in life, you have to understand this. You have to understand that I can't work for the bare minimum. I can't do it, right? If I'm seeing DIY videos, first and foremost, if somebody has them, or somebody has a problem, I like to think that I can fix it, right? I'm capable, I'm able to. Then I'm thinking I need to learn how to do this. And I do know people that work. I do know people that do DIY. I do know people that, you know, travel and do X, Y, and Z. But I think with me is, you know, I think with me, my biggest issue isn't on the fact that men do work or men take themselves out of circumstances. The fact that, oh, they have to provide for their family members, their relatives. They have to give them back. They have to give back to their relatives. I apologize. I meant to say they have to, you know, they go from being a kid to teenager to adult, right? So they have to give it back. And, you know, I think where I think that I was just trying to, I wasn't seeing it like, oh yeah, I could do this forever, or it was a temporary thing. Like I said, like, I would love, you know, I would love to do something where I got the benefits. Not the benefits of like the circumstances or the slavery or like universal credit, right? Some shit like that. No. I'm not saying that I want the, that's the bare minimum, right? If you wanna stay on that level, then you should just be like, okay, I'm okay waking up every day and doing fuck all, being a slave in the matrix, right? But some people out here, they don't like to conversate with those type of people. And I'm not an unambitious person. I'm a very driven, motivated, disciplined person, because I went through so many sessions. I did so many boxing classes. I trained with several people, right? Boys and girls. And I conversated with too many, right? I'm not going to say from the top of my head who hated on me, who called me out, right? We're not here for that, right? We're here to speak on comfortability. We're here to speak on the issues of comfort zones, right? A girl wants a comfort zone, but a man doesn't. A man doesn't want to have a home and it be a comfort zone. And I'll explain why. Men and women are very different, right? And I've watched so many videos. I've even watched movies. And what I notice is like, I watched Alien. Or was it, which one was it? Aliens? Was it Aliens? I can't remember which one it was. And one of the actresses on there, I think her name is Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, right? Now I was looking and I was thinking, we don't get many movies where women are the main character, like they're leads, they're like the main character. Because if you actually watch Alien, the original Alien, the only ones that, because I was young when I was exposed to those films. I think it was like on the Sci-Fi Channel, or it was on one of the channels. So yeah, you get adverts and then it came on, and I was just sitting in the room. I was like, I gotta watch something. I was like, Alien, okay, what's this about? So I think that's kind of how I was exposed to it. And I watched it, and I started to do a bit of research, and I started to learn about because I always knew that men, man of action, man of status, man of culture, right? Let's say this. We've never really broken out of them being the lead, right? But it was very different, I would admit. I will admit that it was very different to see that she was the main character of interest, that she was at the top of the list for performances, right? And it was a great movie, and it really revolutionized that genre of movies, because now I'm so familiar with that universe. I am a Predator and a Scorpion and a Batman and a Nico Bellic, right? Because of the characters that I play and I relate to, right? So when it comes to I'm going off topic, but I'm trying to keep it specifically on like why men and women are different. I think that for that genre, I feel like something like that today, if a woman was the lead in a movie, it would be kind of silly. And not because I wouldn't support it. I mean, I'll watch Alien. I'll watch it more and more and more and more and more. I think they're very interesting movies. I think we need more like that. But you have to have the acting and the writing and the interesting plot of it to bring it out into existence. That's how movies work. If a movie is just based around, I don't know, these two guys are just standing around and nothing's really happening, then you'll just leave and you'll just be like, nah, I've got mixed feelings. It was mid at best, amateur performance, right? I think Alien kind of hits it on the head, and I'd like to say there are some good points and there's some bad points. I'm not saying every movie is the best. I'm going to say some have glaring issues on its production, on its behind the scenes footage. I've seen a bit. I don't really know much about it, but there's a lot of politics that comes around, and that sometimes happens when fans and the audience they really recognize that there isn't enough effort being put in, and they just want to say you need to change this, you need to add this, you need to incorporate this, you need to put this, and the fans are always right. They're always right. And I'm not speaking from a sense of being a fan. I'm speaking from a sense of being a member of the audience. Because if I was a fan, I would know everything there is to know about this universe and its lore, which I don't, right? I've played certain games. I've played certain games on consoles, certain games with people. They've tried to use mind control on me, try to play mind games with me, betray me, brainwash me, manipulate me, all of that, right, etc. And that's why I say men and women are different. They really are. When it comes to this generation, we do need strong leadership, and that's kind of what we need. When it comes down to me, if I was never taught to lead a group of guys or group of people, like let's say they put me in charge of a team, it wouldn't work. That's why I think I resonated with Power Rangers, because you always had like a lead. You always had like a lead character, like the main Power Ranger. He's the leader of the group. Or I'm not going to say which color, right? But you know what I mean? Like, everything for this generation, it triggers people, right? I think people see it, oh yeah, it's like the Teletubbies. They are different colors, and they're very colorful, and they're very kiddie and funny and silly, and they like it, right? And it's not to be judgmental. It's okay, you got your preference, you got what you like, and I've got what I like, and I've my preference for silly videos. I love them. I've spent a lot of my time reading and looking through certain things and saving stories and really having the ability to learn more about the culture. And there's just so much, but it always comes down to creating an environment of like not seeing it as a limitation. If I sort of had a place, I wouldn't just think, oh yeah, all the work is done. I would just think to myself, I just want to add things to it, because in my mind I'm just working and working and working and working, and the other person, I want to make sure that person doesn't ever have to work. And that's the thing where I'm concerned. I think the fact that everyone around me gets up, but they work for the bare minimum, and that's what makes them gossip, and that's what makes them irritable, and that's what makes them aggravating. That's what makes me aggravated, because when I go over to talk to them, I'm not on their level. Yeah. And she did say, like many other girls on these podcasts, right? Or just in general, like men don't have a preference. Men will just smash, right? But girls will say they want a man on their level, or they want this, or they want that, right? In a sense, they want a comfort zone, and they want to look at you like you're their comfort zone, right? And I don't want a comfort zone. I never did. That's why when I've gone through these videos from 2018, right, from swearing about the circumstance about me being thrown out of that gym for leaning on people, for showing them love and affection and respect and acknowledging them and their existence and their presence and valuing them, right, like I would for Becky, right? What I'm trying to say specifically is to that, right, it's to look back at the time where I was that age, and I was coming up to that age, right? And I was trying to work at a level that people could respect. So like, yeah, you're not a kid anymore. You're not a kid. You're not a child. You're not a teenager. You're an adult now, right? So you gotta move and think and adapt, right? And that's kind of me saying, I never saw the gym as a comfort zone. All I did was say it's a challenge and I can do it. Who's gonna stop me? Yeah. And the same for education, the same for school, the same for college, the same for working multiple jobs, making money, right? Making money, but not making enough money, right? So there's this glaring, obvious red flag. Whenever you do decide to go on a show or go on a podcast or be interviewed by these popular, interesting influencers or these people, you can't ever just sit there and just, you can't just talk. Like, that's why when I look at men of interest and I never think of a woman of interest, I always go to the guys like Cillian Murphy or Robert Downey Jr. or Paul Bettany or who's the guy that played Thanos? What's his name? Let's say Benedict Cumberbatch, the guy who plays Doctor Strange, right? Or Chris Evans, right? When I look over at their direction, it's their mannerisms. It's not the fact that certain women are thirsty for them, or they want to be in their DMs, or they want to shoot their shot. It's how they present themselves. It's how they talk. It's how they work. It's how they function in society, and that's what makes them relevant. I mean, I'm not Team Marvel, I'm Team Batman, so I probably should have led with the Batman actors, right? I wanted to be a bit more obvious because Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are the most notable celebrities next to Mark Ruffalo and Josh Brolin. There we go. Brolin. I don't know how you pronounce his surname. He's the guy that played Thanos. And then you get Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, right? And I've had the opportunity to, come across celebrities, not really know them, never going to a Comic-Con, not going to a convention, not going to get, my getting an autograph, not getting a picture taken. And I do look back, and I do think I hold that in my heart, as a sign of regret, because I could have gone, I could have had a picture, I could have, I would, in my house, in my atmosphere, in my environment, I'd just be like, I'm just gonna put this up somewhere, and every day I wake up, I want to remind myself I'm doing it for him. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the kid in me, bro. Like I have a partner. I have someone to provide for. I'm doing it for that person, right? So when it comes down to this generation, I think that everybody's selfish because all they want is to be abusive, or they want a bit of sex, or they want a bit of this, or they want a bit of that, right? I'm not going to get into character for the times I've said that, right? I think going forward, it's just not repeat yourself. Like, stop. Like, you don't need to repeat yourself. You don't need to go back in time. You don't need to say, oh, if I could go back in time, I'd do things differently. You don't need to. All you need to do is say, if people were capable, if people really cared enough about me, then they would show me. And I've kind of lived with that, right? Because I'm a man of status, a man of culture, a man of conviction, a man of action. I have no issue, no time, like to sit around a group of people that are just gonna bring me down, because I don't need negativity. I don't need haters, right? I'm not a kid. Right? If I was a child, if I was a teenager, I'd be like, yeah, hate on me, come at me with the bullshit, get me banned, get me removed, get me excluded. But I'm an adult, right? I have no time. And this is the thing with social media, this is the thing with actors, this is the thing with these rappers, right? They're really at a level where they will say she's a teenager, or she's a OnlyFans creator, or she's a this, or she's a that, and they have to say I'm more well known now because I've got and they start to defend themselves. Like, listen, first and foremost, you can never defend yourself. Never. If you start spending your time with those type of people, don't come over here and talk to me, right? I never did that, right? I was always under the assumption that you were who you were, right? That you were a person of interest, a person of conviction, a person who was able to make it happen. But because I was exposed to comfort zones and mediocrity and the bare minimum, I couldn't breathe. I was suffocating. I was trapped. How am I supposed to do this? Yeah. It's that lack of confidence, that lack of belief. But you start to talk more about it, what really affects you. And this is the thing what influencers do. Influencers say, why don't you go sit in your room? Why don't you go and go on, if you have your own podcast? Successful people on podcasts, they never do this because they decide, daily episodes. Let's bring these people here and let's expose them, right? If I had what they had, I would not do that. I would go off on my room and I'd be like, I gotta bring back the past. I gotta write it down, but not speak about it, not talk about it, but remind myself if I fall off, if I stop, if I don't do this, if I don't hit it, right? The criteria of what I'm trying to escape, what I'm trying to come out of, it's just going to eat me alive. This world will eat you alive. These women will eat you alive. These experiences will eat you alive. These men will destroy you. They will make you look small. They will make you look weak. They will make you look stupid. And they will win and they will look good doing it. And that's the thing with me. I think it was hard for me to come around guys. Like, it's not hard for me to come around guys and show them up. But then that being said, I don't care, right? At the end of the day, you have your delusions and I have my resolutions, right? When I say you have your delusions of you like to simp and you be there on your hands and knees for a bitch. If I say I care enough, or I really do feel some type of way about you, and I'm let's say I'm working to better myself, to provide and give you all these things, and that's exactly what I'm doing, and that has always been me, right? It's unfortunate that in 2016, I never made these videos. In 2017, I wasted a whole year, right? Just training in that gym, trying to force conversations, connections, chemistry that really wasn't there. And I really should have said, you know what? You want me to not talk to you, then I'm not going to talk to you, and take myself away from the circumstances. But then people would have seen, they would have seen a drastic change in my behavior, a drastic change in my emotions. And a bitch could never get me emotional. A bitch could never get me, I'm in my feelings, or you know, there are people out here that are caught up in it. And I just was never that person. You're a rare specimen, you know. That's why I started to, that's when I really started when I started to hear all these lyrics, and I started to hear, right, that like a girl like her existed, I started to really test myself. So what I started to do is I started to really go through my work, my you know, let's say my portfolio, or you know, the experiences I had and the conversations that I had and the quotes that I threw out there. I started to go through everything. And what I started to understand was, I started to understand that I was that person. I was that guy. I was the man of status, the same man of culture, man of action, you know, I was all of those things. The greatest of all time, the top tier legend of the generation, right? So you have to look at the most important thing, and you have to implement that and add that to yourself, and still be a believer in the culture, because it makes no sense for you to say, I'm doing it for selfish reasons. Everybody knows I'm not. They know I'm not selfish. They know that I don't do it for selfish reasons. I don't do it because I'm trying to be better than them. They all acknowledge the fact that I've gone through difficult shit. I've gone through my fair share of trials and errors, and I've made mistakes. And we've all had those in our lives. But to sit there repeatedly, day in and day out, I have to invite you on my show. I have to make you look like a fool. You are a nobody, right? You think that you're this, you think you did that. To create an environment, to create an atmosphere, to create this utopia, right? That you can give something, you know, you can give something back to somebody that was never used to it. Is that something I could do? Is that something that Bunganil could do? Is that something that I could do? Is that something that I could create? And that all comes from your imagination. That all comes down from the law of attraction. If you manifest something and you say, I want to do that for those reasons, I want to be independent, I want to go off and make money, I want to see results, nobody is going to stop you but you. And that's the sole purpose of why we're having this conversation. Comfort zones, they're cool, but they work for girls. They don't work for boys. They don't work for guys. They don't work for men, right? If I had a son, I would not say, yes, son, I want you to stay in your bedroom like your sister. I want you to stay in your room. I don't want you to come out. Hell, as a matter of fact, I don't even want you to breathe. I just want you to sit there quiet and do fuck all. I'm a bad parent. I'm bad. Because I'm not teaching him. I'm not going, yeah, you know. But let's say this. Let's say I showed a bit more initiative and I was like, what is it that you've always wanted to do? And let's do it. Let's ride quads. Let's go to a go-karting range. Let's go play football. Let's go for a walk around the park. Let's spend some quality time together, right? That is unselfish, and that's what the culture needs. The culture doesn't have enough of this. The culture doesn't have these type of podcasts, these type of discussions, and people will go, it goes over people's heads really quick. Just really quickly.